Okay. Gonna go back to the old style by popular demand. Minchas Chinuch. I figure we'll pick a little bit of a Pesach mitzvah, or at least a few weeks. What do we have? 2 more weeks till Pesach. See how that last Thursday night.
Tashbisu,
I think, yeah.
That's
the Tashbisu shiur will be Shabbos or Gadol, and then Tashbisu shiur will probably be Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
What?
So early?
Pesach's ready. Bidika's ready Tuesday night.
Sunday night's the thing.
We have the Tashbisu shiur, unless we do the Tashbisu Thursday night.
Okay, don't go.
Monday night's probably pushing it. Monday night is pushing it, I think.
Yeah, Sunday night.
Sunday night, or we can do it the Thursday night before. But anyways, it's a good thing we brought that up, because part of the idea I want to speak about tonight is to try to justify the Tashbisu shiur. Are we actually doing any mitzvah of Tashbisu?
By eating.
In the Tashbisu shiur by eating chametz. So,
Now it's more beer to...
so getting more to do it. You're supposed to do it. Certainly not with tequila. No, you're not yet with tequila. Yeah. But, so it comes from Minchas Chinuch. The mitzvah test in Minchas Chinuch is the mitzvah of Hashbasas Chametz. Mitzvah of Hashbasas Chametz comes in Parshas Boi, where many of the mitzvahs of Pesach are. That's the mitzvah of the Haser Kol Lechem Chametz Mishkan Seinu, to remove all lechem that's Chametz on the 14th of Nisan. Shneimar. The pasuk says, Ach b'yom harishon Tashbisu Teichet. It says you're gonna eat matzah, you're not gonna chametz 7 days. Ach b'yom harishon, on the first day, Tashbisu. Tashbisu is a lashon of basically getting rid of. Getting rid of, it's like a lashon of shavas. Like make sure it's gone. So or mivatechem any chametz from your house. Upirish Chazal say is Rishon Kaidin LePesach. Right? Famous Gemara. We'll get into maybe soon the different shot in the Gemara, but the Gemara says Yom Rishon is not the first day of Pesach, because that doesn't make any sense. The Gemara says. The Gemara says we know you're not allowed to you're already on Pesach, not allowed to chametz. So what does it mean? Tashbisu or mivatechem on B'Yom Rishon. You can't be getting rid of it on Yom Rishon. So the Gemara says Elamai must be on the 14th Yom. And the Gemara further darshans, it says, then at what point on the 14th of, that's Eretz Pesach, at what point? So the Gemara says Chatzos. Chatzos is the Zman, Ach, Cholak, the Gemara says. It's definitely during the day, it's not at night, and Ach is Cholak. Ach splits the day in half, so from Chatzos, that's the Zman, you have to get rid of. This is besides for the Isra Achila on Eretz Pesach. There's an Isra of eating chametz. There's an Isra of being nana from chametz on Erev Pesach that we learned from a different pasuk in the Torah by the Korban Pesach. It says l'shishchar al chametz, that you're not allowed to shech the Korban Pesach while you still have chametz. That from there we learn that you're not allowed to eat chametz on Erev Pesach, and not only that, like I say, you're not allowed to be nana from chametz on Erev Pesach. You're not chayv kares the chametz and Erev Pesach. That's one difference. There's a lot of complexity in here with the different isurim and how they interact. But when it comes to, there's an isra achila, there's isra no, there's no chiyuv the kares Erev Pesach. But besides that, there's also a mitzvah, an assay. It's an assay that you have to get rid of the chametz on Erev Pesach. Okay, he says for the shorish of this mitzvah, look in other mitzvahs. And he says for all the din in the mitzvah, ayin in Shas and the Paiskim, and that they will discuss it. But a heges b'chol makom b'chol zman. This mitzvah, the mitzvah of Tashbisu, is noig every time at all times b'zucharim u'ben nekevus. Nekevus is a chiddush. We get there next time. Maybe nekevus is, he's saying, even though it's a mitzvah sesher, it says man groma. It's b'yom rishon, but afal pikin the Chinuch says that it is noyeg by nekevus. Many of the mitzvahs of Pesach are noyeg by nekevus for different reasons. Hakeshim to the lavim Pesach, other things that perhaps we'll get into. Okay, but the Minchas Chinuch opens here with a very famous Claire. Many people weigh in on this discussion about what the nature of the mitzvah's Tashbisu is, and he wants to know v'hinei l'char yesh safek. Im mitzvah's essay here she'chometz moshbes, is the mitzvah's essay just the chometz should be gone? That's it. Just make sure that your house is shavas mechometz. Right? Shavas is, again, it's a lashon of quiet. There's nothing going on there. We use it in Chinuch. We open Chinuch with a lashon shavas or menu, like it was quiet. The Beis Hamikdash was gone suddenly. So it's also like a lashon of mushbas, that just make sure there's no chametz around. Except besides for the Yisr Val Yirol Val Yimotze, you're also going to be over on an essay. But if you don't have chametz, you're not of the lav, and you're mekayim with this essay, what we call a shav al tasa. By sitting and not doing anything, just by the very fact you don't have chametz, that's called the kiyum of mitzvah essay b'shav al tasa. Just like we have, let's say, it says l'mosh we have Shabbos and Yontiv. Besides for the lavim of Shabbos and Yontiv that you're not allowed to be doing any malacha, there's also an essay of Shabbosoy, Lasius malacha, that you're supposed to rest from doing malacha. That is an essay that the kiyum of the essay is by shav al tasa. By not doing anything, by not doing malacha, you are mekayim. Yes, and now he speaks out that do not confuse this. There's how to break down these different mitzvahs are complex, and the Rambam at the beginning of Sefer Mitzvahs discusses Barichas and the Ramban, but he says do not confuse this with a lav haba michlalase. There's a lav haba michlalase that has no active element to it. That's not a kiyum of mitzvahs essay. It's just a negative that comes from that's discussed in terms of essay, like the mashal. By a Kohen Gadol. He's only supposed to marry, and they're only supposed to marry a basula. That's a lav to marry a bu'ula, but the Torah said it, but Torah say it's called a lav abom mechlalasei. And the discussion how you categorize that. That's a negative that comes from an asay that the Torah said. The Torah said, "Who you should to do this," but it's not telling you a mitzvah asay to do this. However, we understand in each situation how we know that, but it's not telling you a mitzvah asay on the Kohen Gadol to marry an isha b'psula. It's a lav abom mechlalasei. It's telling you don't do. We're just supposed to infer something from that. That's not what this is. This is not a lav abom mechlalasei. It's not don't do malacha because of the fact that Torah said Shabboson. There is an asay to rest on Shabbos, to rest from doing malacha. It is an actual asay. It's just not an active asay. It's a passive asay, what we call an asay b'shav al tasa. V'hachanami wants to say maybe by Pesach also the ikar mitzvahs over here is just not having chametz, and you're mekayim it just like you're mekayim the asay of Shabbos. And now others point out that this comparison to Shabbos is perhaps a little bit of a stretch. Meaning Bishlama by Shabbos, there is something when you're resting that is Shabbosim. Yeah, it's an absence of not doing anything, but we can all point to what is resting. It's something, it's doing something. That's the absence of doing nothing. It's the best doing something, right? It's Shabbosim. It's resting. There's something happening, even if it's just an absence of other things, as opposed to not having chametz and you're just not doing anything. It's nothing. There's nothing to it. So maybe you can't use that you can't say the asay of Tashbisu is just not having chametz in your house. That wouldn't be doing anything. There has to be some sort of element to it. Meaning Bishma on Shabbos and Yontif, we can leave it as an asay b'shav al tasa because there's something at least being done. A person's resting. Resting is something. But not having chametz in your house is just not anything. So it's a chiddush to say that when the Torah says Tashbisu, the Torah says Tashbisu in the lashon of a positive mitzvah, it means just don't have chametz in your house. Then it wouldn't say that. It would say Bal Yirol Bal Yimotze, right? It would say to the Torah's law. To give it a positive lashon of Tashbisu, but yet it means nothing except don't have chametz in your house is a little bit of a chiddush. But okay, that is the side that the Minchas Chinuch wants to put forward. Huh?
Changing your ownership status.
No, but
you a person that doesn't own this item.
No, but he's saying the nature of the mitzvah is nothing. What I mean, but he's not saying the mitzvah is to get rid of it. The mitzvah is not to have it. Meaning, the person who never has chametz in his house, who's gluten-free the entire year, is just as much makayim the mitzvah as the guy who had it and got rid of it. There's no difference. He's saying the guy who just never had chametz in his house didn't do anything. On Shabbos, at least you rested. You didn't do anything here. So that could be an asay, a positive mitzvah.
If someone who doesn't do malacha during the week, you could say the same thing.
But I think we all understand that that even if you never do it, but there's something because you just enjoy resting all the time and you're always doing it. It's nothing. There's no positive element to just not having chametz in your house. Just because it's normal to do doesn't mean that the guy who doesn't have chametz in his house has done anything. Isn't actually like. It's a thin line, but I think the line is there. They understand that there is a little bit of a chiddush that you could say that there's an assay in the Torah just not to have something. The absence of anything is an assay is a little bit of a chiddush.
What's that say adding to the law of Bal Yirol Bal Yimotze? Is there such a concept where the Torah just?
That is really the question that they're asking. So what would I say according to this side? That's Shav al Tasa. What is the assay doing? any more than lav, just so that you should be over on a say and a lav. Maybe that's the whole thing. We want you to be over on a say. When you have chametz, you're over on both, and a say and a lav. Maybe that's the answer, but it's just to have the Torah speak about something as if it's positive when it has nothing positive about it. It's just absence of anything is a little bit of a stretch. Meaning, usually when we do that, what we might say from there is that it's a lavabo michlalasek. Right? It's the absence of nothing because we want you not to do something else, and we just wanted it to just be an essay, not to be.
The Sheva doesn't just be choosing to not get chametz. Like
That's right, but that's what it would be. But what is that? Is that anything? Is that?
It sounds like I'm going to become some comments to do Tashbisu with.
That's his next side, right? So, but we're going in he's going to get to that. That's the second side that the Minchas has. That's what saying. This question is pointing towards that side that it's an active mitzvah to actually get rid of your comments.
Like if you never cook, then not cooking on Shabbos, you can be Mekayim.
You're doing something. You're resting. You're
right.
relaxing.
But
relaxing
it sounds like you actually have to go out of your way if you
right. Because otherwise, what did you do? There is no positive even element to it. It's just nothing. Okay. Ulefizeh says if you go with this tzad. You do not have to medakdek. They have chametz for Pesach and Grivit. Meaning, this is the big chiddush of one of the big chiddush of Minchas Chinuch. He holds Zok Minchas Chinuch that if you hold that the mitzvah is Tashbisu is a positive element to have, then you're supposed to make sure you get chametz and you mevar the chametz. If you don't have crackers in the closet, you go and get crackers. Right? If you don't have any beer, go get beer. And the more beer you go, the more of a mitzvah you have. Right? That's the Yavaru. But if you hold a mitzvah just Shabbat Chassid, there's no inyan to go out and buy stuff, right? You just want to drink, right? Okay. But there's no inyan actually to go out and do anything, to buy anything to do it. It's just not have chametz. The less chametz you have, the better. Why are you going getting more chametz to Mekayim the mitzvah Tashbisu? Now the fact that minhag l'chol kvusas kaisel is to make sure you have 10 pieces to burn the next day. So definitely sounds like not like this. Sounds like there is an active mitzvah, but those might be minhagim, drabbanons, and
the 10 pieces bracha.
Yeah, but the fact that we have a bracha of al bir chametz gufa seems to suggest this. But those might be derabbanons and other elements to it which are complex factors here. He's talking about the essay deraisa, the pasuk in the Torah that says what is the chefted mitzvah. But now he's saying that if you hold it's a mitzvah to add an active mitzvah to go and do it, a person, he says, his lashon is just like by tzitzis. You have to be medakdek the chametz kodim sheyivaru. I think later he says it a little more. U'kamoy hasam, just like by tzitzis, it's a mitzvah to be kaina talis to mekayim mitzvahs Hashem Yisbarach. So too would be a mitzvah to get chametz to mekayim mitzvahs Tashbisu. So that is a little bit of a chiddush, and as a matter of fact, Avnei Nezer is chaylik on this. Now, Avnei Nezer Lehedja, he declares the same chakira of the Minchas Chinuch. Is the mitzvah's Tashbisu an active mitzvah, or is it just a shaval tasa? But he says even if it's an active mitzvah, you don't have to go. You're not supposed to go out and buy chametz to do it. If you have chametz, you get rid of it. But to actively go and buy. He says there's no such thing. He says it's doima to kisur adam. Why, when you shecht an animal, you do kisur adam. You don't have. There's no inyan. You have to be chayzer to make sure you get involved in a shechita in order that you should be able to do kisur adam. Well, if it comes, it comes. If not, not. Meaning he's saying it's different than tzitzis. Bishlam tzitzis, we'll have to see why. Why would tzitzis be different? Tzitzis, yeah, taka, there's a mitzvah. We'll see where it comes from. There's a mitzvah to be chayzer to make sure. Even though, what is the mitzvah of tzitzis? Tzitzis is only if you have a baguette of 4 corners, you have to put on tzitzis. You don't have a baguette of 4 corners, you don't have to put on tzitzis. There's no mitzvah in the Torah. But afal pikin, there's an inyan that's paskin halacha to be chayzer achreya, right? It's, every shmooze in high school, every other shmooze basically, right, was about, at least where I went, it was about people not wearing tzitzis on the basketball court basically, right? And it was this idea, mitzvah, rega to mekayim mitzvah tzitzis, at least to the basketball court. If you mamish can't wear it on the basketball court, at least make sure you wear it up to the court. That came from a psak in halacha, a gemara in Menachos that we'll see that by tzitzis you have to do it. So the Minchas Chinuch holds that if Tashbisu was a mitzvah, but Shabbat was a positive mitzvah, you have a mitzvah lachzor achreda to go get it. But the Avnei Nezer is being chaylik. We spoke of this recently. Did you ever look up that story with the Divrei Chaim and the Avnei Nezer? Minchas Chinuch was a talmid of the Divrei Chaim, yeah. So that they should. Maybe they It's one of the few Hasidic Lemaisa that my shver knows.
I hear that.
Yeah, he loves it.
There's definitely a historical tension. I don't know if it's...
Right. I said a story at Shal Shudas that the Avnei Nezer was... the Divrei Chaim wanted him to marry his daughter. I mean, Chinuch was a Charusa, I think, of Divrei Chaim, or Talmud. And the Divrei Chaim wanted the Avnei Nezer to marry his daughter, and he tested him. He was beichen him, and he wanted to test him again, the Avnei Nezer. And the Avnei Nezer said, if you're going to test me again, I'm going to test you. So he said, why? He said, because his lashon that he said was, why does the son-in-law not always get to test the father-in-law? He also wants to marry Bas Talmid Chacham. Why should not get to test him? Elamah he samech on mechzakas that his shver tested him. So there's a chazaka, he was tested already. Doesn't have to be tested again. But once you're testing me twice, now I can't be samech chazaka anymore. So now I have to test you. And the Divrei Chaim was supposedly not happy with this, and the shidduch did not go through. Avnei Nezer ended up marrying the Kotzker's daughter, but supposedly Adayoim, the tzans and the Kotzker, right? Yeah, of course, yeah. He probably said it to the Kotzker loved. That's why he read the shidduch. But he was a long time Talmud of the Kotzker. But anyway, he. Yeah, that's what they say. So there's still Adayoim. I think there's still some tension in his name between.
He got married when he was 13.
Between whose sons and...
Tzans and Sachachov still, are there any Sachachov Hasidim? I don't know.
There are. I know somebody.
But hey, the psukim of the Avnei Nezer. Avnei Nezer is the biggest. Yeah, it's for sure Rabbi. That doesn't. Oh yeah, but yeah, okay. And he has a following. Okay.
He takes the bus.
He what?
He rides the Egged bus.
You're saying he's a Pashto? Yeah. This is.
He's a Rebbe. He's not a Pashto.
Right.
But he's.
Anyway, okay. But getting back to it, so here we have Machlokes between the Avnei Nezer and the Minchas Chinuch. The Minchas Chinuch is saying again that if it's a mitzvah of kumvaseh, you have to go and get chametz to burn it. And the Avnei Nezer is saying no. Even if it's kumvaseh, you don't have to get to do it. The halacha here, I'll just show you about mezuzah. Afal pi tor shemin chof dalin or chayiv. Afal pi she'enon chayiv liknas talis bas aver. Even though you do not have to buy a talis, that's bas dalin kanfas. There's just chayiv b'tzitzis in order to be mechuyev b'tzitzis. It's just if you want to wear a talus, it's for a conference, you have to put on it. They have to put on the tzitzis. We call makom. It's toiv v'nachon liyoskol adam zahir v'zahir b'mitzvah tzitzis. Everyone should be zahir and should be zahir in the mitzvah tzitzis. Sheheloi beged katan. You should have a talus katan. Mitzuyitz that has tzitzis. Sheyilbash es a kol hayom. You should wear it the entire day. Ki itkur mitzvasa zechiras hamitzvos v'chol shol v'chol rega tzarich l'kam. The ikkur point of tzitzis is to remind you of mitzvahs, and you need that reminder at all times, right? There's the mice in the Gemara. Where someone got hit in the face with the tzitzis, remind them to stop, and he didn't go and be doing a vera that he was on his way. It was on his way to do. But the point is that it's before from the Torah that it's a way. Mitzvah tzitzis is to remind you constantly of the mitzvahs. That's a good thing. Sounds like a great idea for a person to have with him at all times. So Mela is the Torah halachal ma'isa. It's nachon zor that a person should have proper tzitzis on him at times, at all times. Now, if you just take the lashon haTorah, the Avnei Nezer sounds right. This is a local din in tzitzis. Since tzitzis constantly reminds you of mitzvahs, so that's why. So you're supposed to be, you want to be constantly reminded of mitzvahs, so you wear tzitzis at all times. You can't compare this to Tashbisu of chametz, right? There's no Indian to constantly reminded of beer chametz. So mehechtes, just because we say by mitzvahs tzitzis that there's a mitzvah to wear it at all times, even though you don't have to do it. That there's an Indian that there's an Indian that's nachon to do it. Mehechtes to compare that now to the mitzvah of Tashbisu. The Minchas Chinuch sounds like a stretch.
Is there a shita that says that destroying the chametz signifies destroying the Yitzhahara?
Yeah, but these are in but there's the chiras mitzvah tzitzis is the first in the psukim that you remember all the mitzvahs when you do it. That the inyan of Tashbisu is at all times, that has that chaymer to remind you of all times. Here, but it would be a little bit of it sounds like a little bit of stretch to me, maybe. Yeah. Like Lemaisa, there is a biur halacha that talks about it. What about a kohen? Can a kohen leave before birchas kahana? Has that ever happened to her where they wanted you to leave? Or yeah, the answer to that. No? Okay. Okay, so there's a biur halacha about it. He's supposed to leave before. And the biur halacha is not so happy, not so pleased with it. He comes from the Gemara that the Torah is really based on. The Gemara about tzitzis says, Ashkelif Katina, that they found of Katina that wasn't wearing tzitzis. So it says, Matahela, normally it says, I'm going to get punished for an assay, not being kind of an assay, I don't have to wear tzitzis. It said, Bizman di ikar rischa an shinon, that's Lashon, be'idun rischa an shinon. At the time that there's a din, that there's rischa, that there's some anger, that there's a tefillah against Klal Yisrael, you get nenash even for not doing the assay. So Zak the Bir Allah also, he holds in these situations, situation depending maybe, but he says Lamaisa to avoid doing mitzvahs. He takes this as a general rule to avoid doing mitzvahs that you can't do, even though technically you get a technical patur out of it. He says it's a bad idea, and he shall sue this in Batzitzis. Now the Shiloh is okay if that's the Gemara, if that's what the Gemara the Torah is based on. Again, the Torah said it as a special din by Tzitzis because of the Chavivus and Tzitzis, because Chol Rega reminds you. I make to other things like Birchas Kahan.
What the Torah saying is there's an Indian to do it, or there's a Chinuch to do it?
He said his lashon is Mikol Makom Toiv v'Nachal Lias Kol Adam Zahir v'Zariz.
Everyone agrees. Let's take Tashbisu according to the second set, right?
Yeah.
Everyone agrees that it's Toiv v'Nachim.
But it's more than that. Yeah, Zahir v'Zariz v'Mitzvahs.
So the question: am I over anything if I don't do it?
So that's really the question of the Torah. Maybe when I speak now, will help you. But I think you are making a good point that there's two points here. If you look in the Beis Yosef, there's the Gemara that says B'idin Richsan Shinon. That Taisa speaks out there before. B'idin Richsan Shinon is at a time where the minhag is people wear tzitzis, and now you just walk around without tzitzis. So that's B'idin Richsan Shinon, where most people wear tzitzis, and you decide not to. That's a scary thing to do. That's where the Bir Halacha is pulling out to avoid mitzvahs that are minastam, to go out of your way to get out of a mitzvah. That he's saying that's doimet to that Gemara. So do you have a mitzvah habol yodcha? You're about to do birchus kaidim and you walk out on it. There are other examples also that the Bir Halacha brings. Those are things we have a mitzvah that you're supposed to be doing. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's wearing tzitzis, and you're just you're not doing it. You're solo and you're not into it. You're not wearing tzitzis. That's a scary thing. That's being ritzon shinoi. The Torah is saying besides for that. In addition to that, the Torah is saying there's another thing that you should know, which comes from the same Mordechai that quotes this Gemara, that besides that, even if you're not at a time that everyone's wearing tzitzis, maybe it's taka not the minhag, maybe to the basketball court is not the minhag or whatever. Toiv v'nachan afal pikin it's toiv v'nachan that at all times you should have this with you, in order to remind you constantly of the mitzvahs.
Comparison Tashbisu is. Do you have to do an active Tashbisu, or just not having is a Tashbisu alone? There's no such thing as a.
Well, that is the Minchas and the Kled. We're going on the side that Tashbisu means to actively get rid of the chametz. And the question is, if you have to activate it, are you supposed to buy chametz? Are you supposed to buy chametz to get it? That's the question at hand. So I'm just saying that there's two levels here. There's something where you're going out of your way to avoid a mitzvah. That's like tzitzis, where everyone's wearing tzitzis and you're just not doing it. That's like leaving Birchas Kohanim just to get out of having to do Birchas Kohanim. That's the scarier darga. B'idin Richsan Shinon. But that's not what we're discussing here. There's a secondary Indian besides for B'idin Richsan Shinon, that it's toiv v'nochon for a person to do this at all times. Now that is the question. Do you compare that to Tashbisu? Right? Okay. So let's just stop now for a second. So how can you compare that to Tashbisu? So still the Torah says that it's because of the fact that tzitzis reminds you at all times of mitzvahs. Right? So how is the Minchas Chinuch saying, just like by Tashbisu, you should go out dafka by chometz, just like by tzitzis? So I think the point is like this, and this is maybe getting back to the point you were just making, is that the Torah's chiddush. Of course, you're always supposed to do these mitzvahs and get them. Of course, you're supposed to put on tzitzis at all times. You don't need to be kind the mitzvah essay. You don't need anyone major to tell you that. The Torah is adding in you that b'chol rega at all times you should make sure to have tzitzis on you. That's already a big deal. The whole rega that at all times, that's not normally how we do that. That's not, I don't think, the stam way a person would approach it. Maybe is it a good thing? Is it a midas chasidus? Sure, but toiv and ochon, that every person in Klal Yisrael should be zahir and zahir, should be careful that at all times to have tzitzis with them, which is what we try to do. that's kind of standard practice that people are trying to do. Is that at all times we're trying to mekayim a mitzvah sesa that's only a mitzvah kumas. That's a big chiddush. So that he's saying is special by tzitzis because of the fact that tzitzis constantly remind you, and you want to have that constant shmira. But I think the Minchas held, just like you say, that the underlying idea that when you have a mitzvah that you could do, a positive mitzvah, that you should be going out and doing this. So of course that applies, and that should apply to chametz as well. All right, and these are saying no, it's not true. It's special. It's special. I think he's saying it's special at tzitzis maybe, or I don't know exactly where he draws the line. You could probably take each mitzvah like this and figure out what category it falls into. But these are saying the mitzvah's tashbisu, even if it's a positive mitzvah, there's no inyan to go out to get the chametz. It's a positive mitzvah if you have it. It's like Yisur Adam. Or, let's say there was a big discussion about a couple years ago about Tfilas Kalim. What the nature of Tfilas Kalim is. Tfilas Kalim just there to be masalik in Isser. It's an asay, Tfilas Kalim. But you have an Isser, you have a kli that's also to use until you're tayvlit. So in order to masalik the Isser, or do it, or is there like an inyan, a positive inyan that we want you, similar to tzitzis, we want you doing Tfilas Kalim. And this came up, of course, during COVID, with should you be makna the kelim to a goy and get out of your mitzvahs tfilas kelim. So one of the big tainas was that it's a mitzvah tfilas kelim. Why are you going out of your way? There are ways to do it. Go to the ocean. Go whatever. Okay, figure it out. There's ways to do it. Why are we finding eitzos to get out of a mitzvah? And one of the retorts back was that no, this is not a mitzvah that has that element, a positive element to go in and do it. It's just to be masalik and isser. That's the nature of it. It's just to get rid of something. So, who adim kisar adam? I think he's saying after you do shchita, this is what you have to do. But there's no inyan to run after kisar adam. But so the Avnei Nezer held tashbisu, even if it's a positive mitzvah, is the same type of thing. There's no inyan to run after it. But the Minchas Chinuch held that no, the tashbisu, if it was a positive thing, there is a mitzvah to run after. Okay, now. What's very interesting in the Shita Minchas Chinuch, he says, first of all, he says another thing, he says in nafkamina, I want to get to two more points. He says another nafkamina is let's say, is it a mitzvah ba'avera if someone finds chametz on Pesach and decides to eat it? Right? That's just going to get it. Oh shoot, what am I supposed to do? I found some chametz, I got to get rid of it, right? So he just quickly sticks it in his mouth, that's like his first reaction is, how am I going to get rid of it? I'm going to eat it. And then he's like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that, right? Okay, but now, was he Mekayim mitzvah tashbisu? Are they eating it when he was over alive of eating chametz? So he says, if it's a positive mitzvah, tashbisu, you got to get rid of it. So how'd you do it by eating it? That's a mitzvah b'avera then. You did a lav, you did your positive mitzvah of eating by being over alive. But if the inyan is just to make sure you don't have any chametz, lamaisa, you don't have chametz. Lamaisa, you're back in the good graces of the asay. I don't know what it would mean. You're not mekayim anything though, so. Like, what's better, really? You're just now back at the state you should have been. But he says, at least it's not a mitzvah. You don't have the element of mitzvah there. L'maisa, you don't have chametz around. It's gone. But if it's a positive mitzvah, you have to get rid of it, and you chose to get rid of it on day eating, and the eating is a lav. That's a mitzvah b'aver. Whatever the chiddush of the tzad aside, or Kveger discusses this as well. But the chiddush of it aside, what you do see is that achila is a kiyum of a mitzvah tashbisu. Meaning, if you hold tashbisu as a positive mitzvah, which is unclear, but if you hold it in positive mitzvah, achila is a kiyum of it. Others want to argue and say burning is a kiyum of it, getting rid of it. Eating it, you're using it. How's that? Tashbisu means to get rid of it. It doesn't mean to eat it. You see from the Minchas Chinuch and from Rabbi Kveger that eating the chametz is a key of tashbisu. Okay, so far we got two steps towards possibly justifying our tashbisu party. Number one, we have a tzad that it's a positive mitzvah to actually go and do it, and number two, you see from Minchas Chinuch that achila is a kima. Now,
in the years that Pesach is Matzah Shabbos, why do people flush down the toilet? Why aren't we signing on this shita?
Saying, why don't we eat it?
We do eat it, but why do we go the extra
if you hold,
to flush down?
Why don't we just say we're doing it anyway? Usually not doing it. Normally in years we do it because shreifa. Say there is an inyan of doing shreifas chametz that comes from Neisser. We're not doing shreifa anyway. It could be that the flushing down the toilet is a shtickle kiyum of that shreifa.
Why isn't it? the eating
Say,
it.
Achil is only odd dal shais, but.
But why not do it before? You could do the streifa earlier, so why not do the getting rid of it earlier and still eat it?
That you have that time slot.
Well, he's saying more. He's saying, okay, you eat your Suda very early in the morning, right? So just while you're eating your Suda, say I'm doing my beer chametz right now.
Yeah.
You're not getting the streifa anyway,
Same
so
thing in the other year when we're specifically burning it.
because there's an Indian to do no, but there you could burn it earlier in the morning. You can burn it.
Most people, so there's no Indian.
No. I don't believe there's any Indian.
I'll say
Do it early in the day. It could be done earlier, as long as you do a streifa at some point. It could be done at 8 in the morning. So he's just saying that. So I'm not sure. It could be the flushing. There's also on some level of streifa maybe. I hear, or it could be we don't want to be samech. It's a chiddush when it's saying that achila is considered a streifa's chametz. But I hear it's an interesting point. Okay, but there's one other point here that the Minchas Chinuch says. Okay, so how am I going to be yashiv the shayla? I'm not sure. Is mitzvahs tashbisu just a shaval tasa, just sit and do nothing, or is it actively going to do it? So he wants to say it's a machlokes Rashi and Taisus. How? Because the Rashi says again. Remember, the Gemara says tashbisu or b'teicha means at chatzos you have to do it. So the Gemara says midiraisa bebitov almasagi. Midiraisa, once you're mevatel chametz, that's good enough. You're mekayim everything midiraisa, it's good enough. You don't have to do anything else. Really, just with bittul. We do bediko, we get rid of everything. We do streifa to make sure, for whatever reasons, maybe you're going to find something. All sorts of complex reasons in the Gemara. But midiraisa, the Gemara says unequivocally bebitov almasagi. When you say that bittul is good enough, why? Rashi says because the lashon of pasuk is tashbisu. Get rid of it. However you get rid of it, you get rid of it. Miba teichem, get rid of it from your house. However you get rid of it, by being mavatel, you also got rid of it from your house. It's gone. That's good enough. That's how Rashi says. Taisus asks, and Rashi says, I don't understand. He says it says you're supposed to get rid of the chametz at chatzos, which is the zman of the isser of the chametz. That's when you're supposed to do this. As soon as that zman kicks in for Taisus, you can't do bittul anymore because you don't own it anymore. So how can Rashi possibly say that bittul chametz is a kiyum of tashbisu? It can't be that bittul chametz is a kiyum of tashbisu. Once it hits the zman, the zman you're supposed to do tashbisu to kind of mitzvah is chatzos. Once it hits that zman, you can't do bittul anymore. So Taisa says you're right, and he says it's not a kiyum of tashbisu. The Gemara just means lamaisa. It's out of your shus. It's out of your shus. What are we going to do? We can't force you to do any more. Midiraisa. But Taisa saying we have an essential machlekes Rashi Taisas is bittul chametz considered a kiyum of tashbis or not? Rashi says yes. Taisa says it can't be. Why can't it be? Because you have to do tashbisu at the zman of chatzos. And once the zman of chatzos hits, you can't do bittul. Doesn't work anymore because it's no longer in your rishus. The isser kicked in. The isser hanoah kicked in. You don't own it anymore, so you can't bittul. Doesn't work. You have to do bittul before chatzos, right? So says the Minchas Chinuch, that is mamish this machlekes. Meaning Rashi holds that tashbisu is just to make sure it's out of your rishus. There's no positive mitzvah. So you can do it at 10 in the morning. You can do it at 8 o'clock the night before. It doesn't matter. As long as you made sure this chametz is out of your rishus, you are mekayim tashbisu 100%. Tashbisu just means get it out of your, make sure, just make sure that when the zman hits, there's no chametz in your rishus. So it's, according to Rashi, he wants to say, it's a shaval tas. It means to just sit there and do nothing. As long as you make sure that when chatzos of your dalet hits, chametz is gone, you're good. You makayim the mitzvah. But according to Taisvus, it's a positive mitzvah. You have to go and do something. So if you have to go and do something, when do you have to do it? When the Torah says, Ach b'yom rishon at chatzos, you have to do something. You can't do bittul then. So it must be you have to do shreifa, says Taisvus, in order to be makayim, tashbisu. So I understand that's what it's. He's giving you a gilur into the way he understands Pashut, how he's going to read the pasuk. If you hold it's a positive mitzvah, he's going to read the pasuk. Ach b'yamarishon tasbishu v'teichem. You positively have to get rid of this when at chatzos of the 14th. That's when you'd have to do this ma'isa. So if you'd eat Sunday night, you'd have your Tashbisu party, and Erev Pesach is Wednesday afternoon. That chatzos is not till Wednesday at 12 o'clock. You're not doing Tashbisu according to Minchas Chinuch. You're not doing the positive Tashbisu. So the whole thing is out. The whole idea is you want to be Mekayim with Tashbisu positively. You want to go and buy chametz in order to eat it, and you want to be Mekayim your Sreifa B'achila. You have to do it you have to do it at Chatzos on Erev Pesach. That's what he's saying in Taisvus. That's why Taisvus says you can't do it with bittul, you have to do it other ways. All right? It's only according to Rashi that says you could do it earlier. According to Rashi, it's not a positive mitzvah. It's just a shaval tasa. And that's how he understands the entire thing. That is the Minchas Chinuch's opinion on the matter. However, many want to argue on this. And they say no, it's mavur and many rishonim like the Minchas Chinuch that it's a shav that it's an actual a positive mitzvah to get rid of chametz, and afal pikin they're clear you can mekayim before chatzos. Like Shitas Rashi, like Shitas Harambam, they're clear you can be mekayim Tashbisu even though it's a positive mitzvah. It doesn't mean it's a very big chiddush what the Minchas Chinuch is saying. The tzad is it's a positive mitzvah and you have to do it exactly at chatzos. You ever have a mitzvah you have to do exactly at a moment? We have a mitzvah. He says it's like lulav. You have to do lulav on the first day of Sukkot, so you have to do this at chatzos. Huh? Exactly at chatzos. You don't have to do it exactly then. It was shechted b'shalosh kitas the whole afternoon. It could be done. Bein harabayim. I'm saying that's why he's saying it has to be done exactly at chatzos. And at first I thought maybe he means you have the whole afternoon taka. Tashbisu means just at some point Pesach afternoon, just like Shchitas HaPesach. But it's clear not like that because the Gemara says, why do you have to burn it? He even says this himself. He says, why do you have to burn it at the beginning of the 6th hour? We don't wait till chatzos. We burn it earlier. Why? Because you may get mixed up with when chatzos is, right? But of course, if he meant you have the whole afternoon, then you wouldn't need to start burning it an hour earlier, just so you don't get mixed up. If you have all the way until the night. Elamai, it's clear from him you don't. You have mamish that moment. You have the moment of chatzos. So you have a mitzvah. You have one moment to do something, and as soon as you get a chance, basically you have to do it, and that's it. It's very very strange. So anyway, many want to say now like the Minchas if they want to say even on the side it's a positive mitzvah, you have more time. The Meiri, based on the Meiri, they want to say it maybe.
Also that you could do a ma'aser mitzvah where the chiv is a kumvasei.
That's why he's saying right.
Before the zman mitzvah.
That's why he's saying like that. That's why he wants to learn like that. That if it's a ma'aser mitzvah, it has to be done when the Torah says to do it. So the Meiri seems to say that you could do it all the way from the night before, from Leil Yadalit up until Chatzos. There is a piece from Shmuel Rozovsky in Bometzia that he wants to say from Shitas Rashi, you have Shloshim Yom Kodem L'chak to Mekayim, the mitzvah, the positive mitzvah of Tashbisu, every chametz you eat, according to this, from Shloshim Yom Kodem L'chak, you already be Mekayim Tashbisu. So that would be the tzad to allow for a mitzvah's tashbisu party ready before a few days for Pesach. And I'm sure if you look around, you'll find other shitas that say Rosh Chodesh, whatever, this, that. But you're right. But that's a tremendous chiddush in it. But I'm not sure which way is a bigger chiddush. Either the chiddush is you have to say that you have some time earlier to be mekayim the positive mitzvah, or you say that.
I always thought he meant the whole afternoon. That's why.
But the problem with that is that he says himself, he speaks out this idea that the reason why he asks on himself, he says, okay, so if it's a positive mitzvah, why are we burning our chametz from 4 hours into the day? We're being mavatal mitzvah deraisa. The mitzvah deraisa is to burn your chametz in the afternoon. So he says, Elamai, because we're afraid people are going to go a little past chatzos. We're mavatal mitzvah deraisa. According to him, in Taisas Hashita, we are not being mekayim. We are never mekayim the mitzvah tashbisu unless you messed up. You're not being mekayim the mitzvah tashbisu. The way we do it,
It has to be, you have to start then, or it has to be burning by chatzos. Like if you start 20 minutes before chatzos, 15 minutes before chatzos, it's still burning by chatzos.
okay, but let's say that. But we start much earlier than that, and we get the burning done, significantly earlier than that.
That's what I'm saying. But if look at this, I want to be mekayim deraisa. If I start the burning with enough time, it's still burning by chatzos.
It's not our intention to just leave it there. People
Yeah, you're supposed to be done. Well, before you're supposed to be done, you're burning before this
I'm
runs.
saying, leave the sheet that.
Okay, but that's how it is, but that's not the halacha though. So he's saying the halacha is not like this. There is a shita brought in halacha. I think it's from the Rav Yor or something that he would leave taka a tiny bit of chametz until chatzos and burn it dead. Chatzos. We don't do that. It's not recommended to be done at home. But there is a sheet like that. But it comes out like this Minchas Chinuch sheet. They said it's a peladiga thing. We're basically getting rid of the mitzvah deraisa. The mitzvah deraisa is to burn at chatzos, and we're doing it 2 hours earlier, which is hard to imagine. He says that's what we have to do. But why does it say we have to do that? Because people are gonna go past chatzos a little bit. If it's till the night, then what's the chashash? It would be much better with me. The Minchas Chinuch would sit much better with me if you taka meant you have 6 hours. But then I don't understand why in the world we would do it. We would do it a little earlier. Right, okay, that's that's what it boils down to. Number one, you have to figure out if Tashbisu is an active mitzvah or just a passive mitzvah. If it's an active mitzvah, you want to know if you're mekayim it with achila, and you want to know also when can you be mekayim it? Is it only on at the time actually when it happens, or is it even much earlier than that?